So let's move on to the continued public hearing for Brown and Winter Street Scenic Road Review.
Feel better after.
I feel better.
Oh, thank you.
While Steve is setting up, let me just give you a little bit of an update. We had a sidewalk quite a while ago on this project, and there were a couple of outstanding issues. One being the intersection with Wellesley Street and whether to put the sidewalk kind of up in the woods a little bit, or whether to put it down in the, right on the road.
Right.
And the school department was consulted, and their preference is that they would like to keep it a little bit away from the road. So they'd like to keep it up on the hill and then have that slope down, as long as the brush is removed. So it's kind of the low brush, no trees. I mean, there are gonna be a minimal amount of trees to be removed, but the request was that it be put away from, moved away from the street a little bit.
Intersection, basically.
Um,
Because, am I right, Betsy? It's just that, right at the intersection, that you can go up over that little hill, then eventually,
Yeah.
like, not that many feet away, like
Right.
100 feet, you're back down the roadside.
Right. So that was one issue. The second issue was in front of 66 Brown Street, there was a wall that was on
In the right of way.
town property, and then 2 trees in front of it with very exposed roots. Steve did get an arborist opinion on that, and basically the arborist stated that he thought that the trees were not, they were in decline.
Not long for the wall.
So, to redesign the project based on 2 trees in decline, I think based on the discussion that Steve and I had, was that we would recommend that the trees be removed and that 2 large trees be put kind of within the right of way, but prefer large trees so that they have a really healthy start. And then third issue was we get to the intersection of Brown and Winter. There was some potential takings. Steve is working with the engineering firm on retweaking that so he can address that. Fourthly, we never did the sidewalk from Winter to south. And we've had so much snow, it's just been not possible to really deal with. But that stretch does not involve removal of any rock walls and removal of any trees, and it's pretty much a straight shot.
Yeah, that's what we all said when we were
Yeah.
out there being rained on. It's like,
Yeah.
we really need to go see that.
So, and I think at this point, Steve and I have also talked about the fact that perhaps the Winter Street portion of it will be delayed. So at this point, I think we're looking at trying to get a decision on the Brown Street, the entire Brown Street section.
The CEC is kind of wondering what's going on.
They want to suspend their money.
They would like it. It's embarrassing to keep it on your books.
Okay, so, go
Take
ahead.
it away.
Yeah.
So, as Betsy said, the sort of first thing she said was having to do with the Wellesley Street end. What you see here is our consultant's preferred alignment, which seems to have gained the approval of the middle school principal to actually depart from the edge of the road a couple hundred feet back from the intersection and meander up the slope a little bit and through the trees, eventually coming back down to the crosswalk. This, as you know, this intersection is under construction for a new signal, which will be wrapped up this summer. So unless there are other questions, we can move to the other section that Betsy was talking about.
And I think we figured on that section, there's gonna be some regrading and wall detail, a little bit of wall detail, but the bulk of the stuff that's being taken out was pretty scrubby, and there was an occasional kind of white pine about like that size.
Right, this little wiggle in the walk here is to try to avoid some of the more significant trees.
I'm glad a decision was made.
There was a decision made again on the width, and I know it was considering something around 5 or 5
Five,
and a
yeah.
half.
Yeah, 5 minimum is what we can negotiate for sidewalk. There would be an expectation that, particularly in the schools, that this would be primary sidewalk plow route.
And if I remember correctly, it goes up steeply in the beginning from Wellesley Street up to the top of the hill, and then it slowly goes back down again.
Right, yeah, so you can see there's some topo lines here indicating that grade, and we need to keep it at a 5% uphill grade, so there'd be a cut in here, so that these topo lines representing the amount of disturbance, and less disturbance in this section.
I'm frankly surprised that the schools actually decided
Me
on that
too.
option.
Seeing as they deal with kids all the time, I
Exactly.
know that kids always take the shortest route.
Right.
Those kids are gonna be walking right in the road.
They did not ask the parents.
They did not ask the parents,
No, they
I know,
didn't.
but so be it.
Okay.
That's what alternate routes are all about.
That's right, kids will be in the road.
Is there any safety concern?
They already are, so.
You know, kids work, at night,
Well, that was one of the
off
things
road and stuff.
that was raised the last time, is this gonna be out of view of motorists and so on, but it's not that far off the road, and there's very little understory there, so.
Yeah,
That's
it's not
pretty
a
much-
deep forest.
Are there good street lights there?
Yeah, I was gonna ask, is there any lighting on the path?
Because in the mornings in the winter it's dark and in the evenings it's dark.
I don't know if Brown Street has, I know there's lighting on Wellesley Street, I don't know if Brown Street offhand has streetlights. Good question.
You know, because like in December, about 4:15, it's pitch black almost. And kids are walking home from school along a wooded path.
Well, the parents will weigh in on that later.
Hmm?
I said the parents will weigh in on that later, once there's a path.
On the other hand, they'll probably be walking the street.
They'll be in the road,
Dark
yeah.
clothing.
Yeah, they'll be in the road with dark clothing, right, exactly. So,
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, moving on. The other area that Betsy was talking about is down in front of 66 Brown Street, which is here on the right side of this drawing. If you recall, we originally had trying to snake our way between the stone wall and those two maple trees that are out here near the edge of the road. Just too difficult to try to make that work without knowing that we would definitely kill those trees by going over the roots. So discussions with the arborist and with the owner there, proposal now is to remove those two trees and replace them with what's shown here is 3 new trees along that same line between the back of the walk and the wall.
What kind of trees?
We can go open to suggestions, but the idea was probably something similar to what was there. I think it's
The red
red
maples.
maples.
Yeah.
What
Would
kind
that
of
be the
maples are
preferred
they?
places for replacement trees, is my question, that close to the road where it's getting salt? Would it be better on the other side of the wall?
Dead trees.
There are 2 trees on the other side of the wall.
There are? You mean on the
Yeah.
other, on the owner's side of, on the town land?
Yes.
Yeah, town land, owner's side,
Right,
the wall,
right.
right, there are trees there. Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
the house where we talked about moving the wall.
Right,
Right.
right.
And
Here's a
making
view
it
from the
curl in
arborist.
there.
Yeah, these cool.
See, there are 2 actually, what is that, some kind of
It's a
closure.
it's a pear tree, I think. This one here.
So calorie
But
pear?
that's
Gallery
on-
pear.
On the owner's property, correct?
No, that's not on, that's still on town
Right away,
Really?
pretty deep, yeah.
Mm, yeah.
So it'd be these two trees here that would be.
It would be nice to have Kim weigh in on the
Definitely.
variety of trees, especially
Well,
for
we
a
can,
road salt.
I can ask her, because, in fact, I've had several discussions with Tom Cullen, who is the tree warden and the DPW director, and Tom has advocated for if a property is on a scenic road, whether it's, we're reviewing something under our GFA, or we're reviewing something like this, is that a tree that gets, a replacement tree is a species that gets high and provides adequate overhang for the street,
Mhm.
so that there's a nice canopy.
Right, shade.
And in fact, we just had, Kim and I just had a discussion with the developer of, or the landscape architect for 314 Glen Road, where they're redoing the landscaping in the front a little, and we said, put a large tree that's
Street
gonna
tree.
overhang.
Right.
So,
But I'm not sure you can fit 3 in there, though.
But,
Thinking because if we're looking at trees that get to be,
you know,
70
like
or 80
bush
feet
chestnuts
tall,
or something like that.
you know,
Right.
that have a big canopy spread.
but I kind of agree. I think that having trees on the residential side of the wall rather than the street side, because then you can also have your walkway a little bit farther from the road, and not right next to, right up against the road.
Yeah.
So
But
the walkway could go right
There
along.
are
the-
2 trees in the lawn on the other side
Right,
of the,
go back to the picture there
yeah.
that you had. You know, I'm talking about trees just immediately next to the wall, but on the resident, on the
Yeah, but I
house
think
side.
it's gonna crowd out those other 2 trees.
You can't be that close to the wall.
You can be 3 feet from the wall, and that's
Then
still
you're gonna have
long.
the wall heat.
They'd be on the street side
Oh,
of the wall.
rural.
So,
They
Would
would
be
be
good to get
same
Kim's
spots,
comments on
right,
this.
same
Yeah.
spots.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, and
let's get
eventually-
Kim's comments.
We'll all be dead. We'll just kick that can down the road like the Congress does.
Okay, next.
So the only other, so, yeah, our hope is to try to, you know, wrap up the Brown Street piece and actually put together a bid package so that we can build a sidewalk this summer.
Great.
The other thing that is a little bit not ready, quite ready for prime time, but since I've got you here and I'm here, I wanted to show you what we just came up with for dealing with that corner property that we know is Mrs. Garen here by any chance?
No, I don't think so.
We hope that this will be a little bit less onerous for her. So again, this is her property here. Winter Street is heading towards the Pike, is that way.
Which way?
Left.
To the left, sorry. The original layout we had was, because of the tightness of the edge of the road to the wall, we had it going across, a crosswalk here, her gravel driveway here, and then jumping behind the wall and running in an easement behind the wall all along there. What we've got here shown now is a 5-foot walk in front of the wall, which would require 2 utility poles to be relocated because they're right in the path, and would also require a minor widening in order to retain a 20-foot wide road width here. This minor widening is going to add cost, but it also would impact 2 trees that are on this side of Winter Street, which I have pictures of if you wanted to see them. I don't know what they are or what condition they're in.
Would CPC funds pay for the widening of that road?
That's a good question. I don't know.
Yeah,
That would be-
I think there'll be a lot of,
What would be the argument?
because it's not recreational. The
Right.
the widening of the road
Right.
is not recreational. I
Right.
mean, as it is, everybody at CPC views the town's use of CPC funds to lay sidewalks as really,
Dubious.
yeah, really pretty sketchy. So I'm not sure that that's gonna fly for the road widening. That may have to be a town budget item.
Okay, so here's Here's the stop sign at Winter heading north, this brown crossing. So this is one of the trees that would be impacted.
Can those utility poles be moved inside the stone wall?
That's what we would have to do, yeah. I don't know if I have a good picture of the other tree.
It's a pretty giant tree.
Yeah.
And why would that be impacted?
To widen the road.
Because you're taking some of the road
I got it.
when you put in the 5-foot sidewalk, right? Because you don't have enough space there. So you're shifting the road.
So one of the things we talked about was bringing the side, turning turning onto Winter Street on the other side. Excuse me, turning down Winter Street on the other side of the street, and then crossing.
And then crossing, yeah.
After you pass the telephone poles, which you wouldn't have to take the trees or move the poles, you just would have, you'd have that turn, and then,
There were problems with that, I forgot.
Yeah,
Okay,
you'd
what
have,
they
you'd have
are.
two crosswalks,
Mhm.
one at the corner and then another one.
Yeah, and what else? Were there some logistical problems with having the sidewalk on the other side as well, or not?
Well, there is more layout on that side. There is that sort of very low stone wall and the two trees that are close to the road there.
I thought that was why we moved it to the opposite side, was we were trying to save those trees. But now they're gonna go anyway.
Well, where would the sidewalk go on the opposite side?
We go right in this pathway here.
Wait, so it would go on the
Inside.
side of the, on the inside of the wall?
yeah,
Well, we could move the wall back to the right of way, reform it,
Now, just the telephone,
It's just
you take up 20
put a
feet.
scattered roll.
The red is the
Red is
right of way?
right of way.
That does raise an interesting question. I mean, if the whole reason to move it across the street was to save those big mature pine trees, and now they're gonna go because we have to widen the road, it seems
Why not think about-
just biting the bullet and just saying these trees are gonna go in any event. you know,
Where are those trees? Because if you have to move the stone wall to get the sidewalk behind it,
The trees are right,
you might end
they're
up.
right, they are right at the road.
right on the
They're like
road, so
traffic calming
your-
trees.
Your
They're so
walkway
close.
would be behind the trees.
There's a whole clump
No,
of
it
them
would be
together,
behind the
though,
stone
right?
wall,
Yeah.
right?
Is there a power line on that side? It's on the other side.
No, that's.
Thought I had a better picture,
Yeah. If we move
The
to
what?
other side, we'll go over there. It's still not
Yeah.
really
Yeah, stop right
Yeah.
there. See, you'd be talking about the walkway
So would you be talking
behind
about
the trees.
moving
But is-
or removing that one big one, or would you talk about removing a bunch of them along there?
I think this, as I recall looking at it, it's this one and another similar size one further south on Winter Street. They were right up close to the road, and I just don't know, with a little bit of widening, whether they make it.
What's the road width there now?
It's only about 21 feet, so it would actually be 20 to 21, so you're just trying to retain that. There's only about 4 feet right now from the wall, face of the
Right.
wall to the edge of the road, so we need to gain a foot.
Right.
So if you put them on the right side of the street in this photograph, would you put that sidewalk behind the stone wall or between the stone wall and those huge trees? That's what I'm not
I
clear
think
on.
you'd probably have to just move the wall.
But still, where are you putting it behind the wall once you move the wall, or
I
you?
think we'd have, if we're gonna move it, we would choose to move the wall closer to the road, or choose to move it closer to the.
Right, and then bring the walkway there and then come across. Farther
So-
down.
As I say, this is sort of breaking news, so we don't have
Hmm.
a
Yeah.
I
final
don't-
proposal for you on
Yeah.
this one.
Maybe when the snow melts, we all just ought to go and stand around right there and try and figure it out.
In July.
I'm sure it'll be done by May. But you need to get going on it, don't you?
Well, as I
Well, I
say,
think we're resolved on hopefully resolved on Brown Street.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that sounds good.
that's
Yeah,
good.
from Wellesley Street to Brown, those two little things are
Or
okay.
Wellesley to South.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this piece is heading down Winter, so,
Yeah, this is the pike piece, going over the turnpike piece.
and this is the piece where if you add all the cost estimates, if you add them all up, I don't think there's enough money to do the whole thing, so.
Oh,
that's kind
okay.
of why we're thinking of breaking it out.
Yeah,
anyway.
yeah. Okay. So we have a
Gives
little
us
time
time.
maybe to
Yeah.
think and really
Maybe-
stand around here
Maybe a
and
Herc
decide.
will come along and solve some tree problems.
David,
Oh, that's fine.
for shame.
I should.
After this winter, you would wish a big hurricane on us. Oh, God. Sadist.
The tree crew that called in tonight for a tree down on Pembroke Road.
Where the
Oh, yeah,
utility
it's so
pole
weird.
is that on town land?
Yes,
So if that was moved behind the wall, you'd have that land, that 5 feet to work with.
Yeah, but then where the utility pole is, they're
It's only 4 feet.
They need one more foot to comply with
Mhm.
ADA.
I know, but if you moved the road over, could you not?
Right, but
That's
then
what
if you
we're
move the
discussing.
road over, that's when you have to take the trees on the other side.
what we'll do is, as part of the study, we'll have to add those tree locations to this plan.
Yes, I was
So
just
we'll
thinking
know just
that.
where they are.
Yeah, you really need to,
Better not lock that down, so we
Yeah.
can be showing them.
exactly.
That'll be done.
All right,
Can I ask a
Right.
question?
yeah.
So when you take trees down, do you have to like deal with the additional drainage and the way that it's been impacted by the tree removal and the road structure, or you could get flooding and things? How do you do that?
I don't think it's.
You're thinking the tree roots absorb water,
We were talking about that when we
Yeah.
right,
removed.
but next to a roadway?
Talking about a single tree.
Well, as you increase impervious surface, or if you take out trees, and there's a lot of trees being taken out, I didn't know if you measure that, or if it's,
There aren't a lot of trees being taken out.
I don't know how many there are. So
Yeah, but
there's-
sometimes we do bring that up. You
The
know,
loss of
Yeah,
the
you do.
loss of,
trees and the rapid transpiration.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I would assume there's a calculation for it
I mean,
somewhere.
especially in marginal areas that, that tend to flood, like North Bath.
Streets
This
no
is that
drainage.
lot that those two trees on the opposite side of the wall is very heavily wooded.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this isn't one of those spots.
Maybe I'm not understanding the question. Is your question, how does the sidewalk do to pose impervious area on the side? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, I mean, if you're increasing impervious surfaces and, or decreasing impervious and increasing impervious, are you doing
You're
that
talking
in your
the right-
drainage for
right
the,
land.
the roads? I mean, couldn't that impact somebody's basement along the way if they already have prone to water issues? I don't know. It just seems like we do that so much with site plans, that when you're doing a public way and you're, adding so much pervious surface like that, you probably have some sort of a calculation.
Yeah, well, it's certainly a good question, and frankly, we don't try to analyze the hydraulics of, say, a new sidewalk, 5 feet by whatever length, new impervious. Something that we should probably think about doing.
Yeah, especially since you have to take care of the drainage, yeah.
Well, because people's houses are right there and the
Probably a
flooding.
standard formula for that too,
Yeah.
you know.
So, what do
All
we do?
right.
Do we do the approval for the first parts, part 1 and 2? Hold off on
Do we
three?
need to approve it?
Do we need to?
Sure, I'll motion that we approve, Wellesley Street down, Brown Street from Wellesley Street to Winter Street.
It's actually from Wellesley Street to south, isn't it?
Yeah.
Almost all of it, so.
All right, from Wellesley
Wellesley
Street
is
to
south.
south
Second.
on Brown.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oh boy, CPC's gonna be happy.
Great,
Thank
Progress.
you very much.
thank you.
All right, I'll write something